You know, it occurred to me that I've never done a video on Stefanik before, and yesterday she was on Fox News Sunday ahead of giving her speech in Israel. This interview is one of the most unintentionally ridiculous, but also like really smarmy and obnoxious things I've seen out of any of the interviews I've watched over, I'd say, the past year. So I'll play it and then I'll give my commentary on it.
Leadership.
I want to talk to you about the Veep stakes. Your name is continually thrown out as being on the short list potentially, that this trip may be part of an audition. The New York Times had a lengthy piece where they talk about your transformation, they say, from somebody who was not supportive of President Trump to somebody who is full-throatedly supportive of him. They say you called him a whack job at one point, and they add this. In August 2015, she told a New York radio station that he was insulting to women and that his candidacy would hurt the party's efforts to attract female voters. According to her former friends, they continue, she thought Mr. Trump was too awful and ridiculous to be taken seriously. Her revisionism still shocks those who have known her the longest and who remember the disdain she expressed for Mr. Trump back then. So the question is when, more importantly, why did you change your mind about President Trump?
Well, Shannon, it's a disgrace that you would quote the New York Times with nameless, faceless,
but they're
false
quoting your
sources.
friends, so I'm giving you a chance to respond to
Shannon,
that.
Shannon, they're not quoting my friends. Those names are not included because they are false smears. I was attacked.
To be
as the
fair,
only
there are a number
Republican
of names of people. Just to be fair, there are a number of names of people who are quoted in the article.
Shannon, let me correct you.
People can read it for themselves.
This is a false smear, and let me tell you a fact, Shannon. In 2016, I was attacked as the only elected Republican from the Northeast who voted for President Trump. Democrats spent hundreds of thousands of dollars attacking me for that fact. So to say that I didn't support him is just false. I have been proud to be one of the strongest supporters, going back to when he ran for 2016, which was when it was my first re-election to the House. I have strongly supported him. He is going to be the next president of the United States. The American people know that. My constituents know that. And I'm proud to be one of his strongest allies in Congress. I have always put my district first, New York 21 first, and America first. And this is an opportunity for us to stop the failures of Joe Biden and elect a president who led to a booming economy, a strong national security. But my record speaks for itself, Shannon.
But let me ask you.
My record stands for itself.
Let me ask you, though, because they quote you on a radio station calling him insulting to women. Is that a misquote? Did you not say that?
I said the statement that the Democrats leaked out in 2016, that was insulting. However, Shannon, I stood by and supported him, and I strongly support him. And he has done so much to promote women in senior positions, as well as promote women's economic opportunity that we experienced under the 4 years of his administration. So I've been proud to support him. It's a disgrace that you would take a New York Times article and just read negative quotes when the reality was I was the only Republican elected woman from the Northeast who voted for him in 2016, who has strongly supported him, and I'm proud to be one of his strongest allies today.
Okay, we know where you are today. Folks can go read that article for themselves. There are plenty of names, people who went on the record, and we'll leave it there. Clearly, you are supportive of him now, and we will track and follow where you are on the campaign trail.
I was supportive of him then, Shannon, in 2016, as you know, so I hope you will tell the viewers that as well, which I voted for him in 2016 and was attacked for doing so.
Congresswoman, we always appreciate your time. Safe travels.
Thanks.
Now, the thing about politicians is that they're supposed to be able to pivot or address something in such a slick or smooth way that we can kind of, not really tell for ourselves that they have answered the question without directly answering it. But in Stefanik's case, her response is so robotic and one note that it almost I'm kind of surprised that she's been able to get reelected in New York over and over. All she had to do was say, look, when Trump was running for president, I didn't like the things he was saying. I thought it was, goofy, ridiculous, etc. But as I watched him after he took office, we had a lot of common ground. I saw things that I was very much a fan of, and now I support him wholeheartedly. That's all she had to say to get around the fact that while he was running the first time, or back in 2016 was not a supporter of his, but instead you hear those are false smears, and I was his only supporter in this. It's like, lady, this article, like, you're not going to go on Fox as a Republican and be smeared. They're not going to do that. Fox is the outlet of the GOP when it comes to the media. So anytime they throw some kind of like microaggression or pushback, it's really just for the sake of having a conversation. And imagine getting this triggered and angry because they're quoting you. Like, she has the nerve to say that the article has false smears when they're quoting her. But some of these people, even though Stefanik is pretty young, I don't even think she's 40. Some of these people truly believe that they live in an era, like the 80s, the 70s, where you could say something 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago and people couldn't just look it up within minutes or even seconds. And just I love the pivots. This strong economy is like, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about you in the past being one of the members of your party that didn't like him, and now you've done this complete pivot. And, and obviously we know the reason for the complete pivot, because like a lot of these other people who were involved in politics before Trump came around, like, Kristi Noem, for example, Stefanik wants power. She thinks that if she cozies up to the cult leader, she will have a higher chance of acquiring that power. And it just goes back to the same thing of like not standing for anything, which, it is what it is. A lot of politicians are like that, but she feels as if since she's so close, or the closest she's come to getting like a real big boost since she took over as, I guess, the number 3 Republican in the House after they kicked out Liz Cheney, she's going as far and as hard in the paint for Trump as possible to try to secure that VP slot. Which, again, whatever, but when they come and they say, hey, look, in the past, you were heavily critical of him. Yeah, those are not my friends, and this is a false smear, and these are, and talks over the lady. We really live in an era where because I've seen this with other people. I remember when Giuliani went on CNN, and he talked over them playing a clip of him. But we live in an era where you can confront someone with their own words. And instead of that person saying, look, I have changed on this issue for X, Y, and Z, they will pivot and pretend they didn't say it, or try to like say that the media has this big conglomerate scheme. Like, it's really insane that this is someone who has a decent chance of possibly being one heartbeat away from the presidency, and she gets this triggered and aggressive over being quoted and asked a basic question about, hey, why did you change your views from not backing Trump in 2016 to being one of his biggest supporters now? And I was going to say, at least in 6 months, we can come back and laugh at the claim where she's like, Trump will be the next president, because I do at this point think he's probably going to lose. But even without, like, whether he wins or not, and I don't think he will win, I still would come back to this interview and just watch it whenever you want a playbook of what these, because it like Noam did the same thing about the dog story. This is just what they do whenever they're confronted about something. They either say they didn't say it or they double down. There's never any admission of, look, I've changed on this given issue, I've evolved in this way. And they get very belligerent with the interview host. And this is just another example of that. So Stefanik is she is someone who we're going to have the misfortune of seeing for a very long time, whether she gets picked as Trump's VP or not. And we're going to likely see more interviews like this down the road. My only regret is that these news networks, I've always said Fox is Republican central. They go on there and all they do is pretend the Democrats are, devil incarnate, whatever. But she made Shannon Bream look like Walter Cronkite or Mike Wallace. Like this, she's saying, to be fair, in this article, they have names of people. Of course, Stefanik didn't even read the article. She's just going by the excerpt that Bream mentions. and just talks over the lady over and over again. Like, and you know, there's something to be said when you make one of these cable sources, which are known for giving like softball interviews to people that they like, or to whichever given party that you think the network sides with. You know that you've really messed up when you make them look strong and tough, and trying to get to the behind the scenes of things. But man, like, ask yourself, if you're a GOP voter, do you really want someone like that as Trump's VP when they can't even answer a basic question about why they changed their support for him? Just pathetic, man.